And with just a few short days before the all-important midterms, we turn to Larry Sabato for some perspective. He's director of the University of Virginia Center for Politics. Larry, welcome.
Thank you, Anthony.
Larry, the first thing I want to talk about is we're seeing reports of a surge in early and absentee voting in some states. What, if anything, do you think that indicates about the potential turnout on a national level?
Anthony, every indicator that we've seen suggests that we're headed for a big turnout for a midterm. Remember, midterms always have turnouts way below the presidential election. Sometimes we go into the 30s, like the last midterm election in 2014, 37, 38%. This time, probably the mid-40s, could go beyond that. So that's one of the reasons. And the second is, over time, Americans are just really learning to like early voting. It's much more convenient, and they don't have to worry about the disasters that can happen on an actual election day, either to them or to the system.
Larry, we saw during the presidential election, polling didn't exactly pan out. So at this point now, what are the factors that you look at, be it some of the information, the modeling that's most reliable to you so that maybe we do see some of that pan out?
I've always told people, I mean, for decades, look at the polling averages. Don't rely on any single poll, even your favorite network's poll. That's great. It's wonderful to look at it. But take them all together, do the averages. A number of internet sites do this for you. And look at that average and say, well, if it's within a few points, that means it's a toss-up. If it's 10 points, that means one candidate is ahead, but last-minute events can change it. Don't over-rely on polling, which is what we all did in 2016. Live and learn.
Larry, one of the most contested races is the race for the Florida Senate. You have the Republican governor pitting himself against the Democratic incumbent. Have you been able to call this one yet?
No. That's a classic example of what I was just suggesting. Right now, no, seriously, the Democratic incumbent, Bill Nelson, is up a point or two in the polling averages. And based on what I just said, that means it's a toss-up. So we're going to take another look on Monday, and we'll see what happens. In Florida, you have to be incredibly careful. In 2016, almost all of the serious polling and other indicators were pointing in the same direction. Hillary Clinton was supposed to win. Donald Trump ended up winning it by more than a point, which in Florida is a landslide. You know, Florida has so many close elections that I'm not just talking about the 2000 presidential contest.
Larry, the governor's race there is really close, too. Republican Ron DeSantis and Democrat Andrew Gillum. To what degree do you think those two races, the Senate race and the governor's race, could affect each other in terms of coattails?
They should track pretty closely. We live in a very partisan, polarized era. And while there are still a few voters who will split tickets and they can make the difference in a close race, the vast majority of people vote for the same party from the White House to the courthouse. So I think they'll track closely, although in the polling averages, Gillum, the Democratic candidate for governor, has actually been doing better than Bill Nelson, the incumbent U.S. Democratic senator. Gillum is up about 4 points, but remember, you cannot ignore the possibility of race becoming important on Election Day. People sometimes don't tell the truth about what they're doing to pollsters or even to themselves.
Larry, we also have Nevada where, again, it's the Senate and the governor's race there where people are watching so closely. What do you expect to happen?
Yeah, this morning I'm a broken record. Both of them are ties. So they're both toss-ups. Look at the polling averages. I'll tell you, though, of all the 50 states, I trust the polling least in Nevada.
Why is that, Larry?
No, seriously.
What?
Well, it's very complicated. One of the reasons is 60% or more of the voters in Nevada vote early. and many of them are very well organized groups like casino workers, Hispanics, other groups within the state. And they disproportionately don't report that voting to those who are trying to get it. This goes back to 2010. It's been a long time coming, and people should be very cautious in that state about polling.
We shall see. Larry Sabato, thank you.
Thank you.
CBS News, the live coverage of the midterm elections on Tuesday begins on our streaming service, CBSN, at 5, 4 Central. And stay with CBS for complete election night coverage starting at 8, 7 Central.